Something is happening at the edge of our galaxy that almost nobody on Earth knows about. A telescope the size of a tennis court just looked at a tiny dim star and saw a planet bigger than that star itself, a world that should have been swallowed or never even born in the first place. And every one of them breaks a rule we have trusted for 30 years. This is the story of the planet that should not exist. Welcome back to the channel. If stories like this one are why you are here, hit subscribe and turn on the bell so you do not miss what we find next. To understand why this matters, you have to start in 1995. That was the year human beings found the first planet orbiting a sun like ours. Not in our solar system. Around another star. A giant ball of gas, about half the size of Jupiter, swinging around a star in the constellation Pegasus, about 50 light years away from Earth. We called it 51 Pegasi b. Scientists who had spent their whole careers looking for another world finally got one. And the moment they did, they noticed something that broke every model they had been working from. The planet was way too close to its star. It was sitting closer to its star than Mercury is to our sun. A gas giant, the kind of world we thought could only form far out where it is cold and calm, was orbiting in a place so hot its atmosphere was being blasted off into space. It should not have been there. And yet, there it was, smiling in the data, defying every line on every chart. And that was only the first surprise. Within a few years, we had found dozens of planets, hundreds, then thousands. Almost every single one of them broke a rule we thought we knew. Hot Jupiters that should have been cold and far away. Rocky worlds bigger than Earth, swimming in zones where rocky worlds were never supposed to form. Giant planets doing loops around their stars, planets orbiting stars so small that the math did not even work out. By 2020, we had confirmed more than 4,000 planets beyond our solar system. And the more we found, the less we understood. The rulebook got rewritten over and over. New categories had to be invented, new words. Hot Jupiters, super Earths, mini Neptunes, rogue worlds. We kept finding things the old theory could not explain. And then came James Webb. Webb launched in December 2021. By 2022, it was unfolding a mirror the size of a tennis court out beyond the moon, chasing the first light of the universe. We pointed it at galaxies so old their light had been traveling toward us since before the sun existed. We pointed it at black holes, we pointed it at baby stars being born in dust clouds, and occasionally, when a team asked, we pointed it at planets too. Looking at a planet with Webb is not like looking at it with normal telescopes. Normal telescopes see planets as tiny pinpricks of light. They can tell us a planet is there. They can tell us how big it roughly is, how heavy, how far from its star, sometimes what it is made of in the broadest strokes. Webb does something different. Webb can sniff the air. When a planet passes in front of its star, a tiny sip of starlight filters through the planet's atmosphere before it reaches our mirror. Webb catches that sip, breaks it into a rainbow, reads the rainbow like a secret code. Each kind of gas, each molecule, leaves its own fingerprint on the light. Water, methane, carbon dioxide, sulfur, sodium. If the planet has clouds, Webb can sometimes see them. It is the closest thing we have to standing on a planet we will never visit and smelling the wind. When Webb turned toward these strange, forbidden worlds, the ones that broke every rule, those air prints started coming back. And they were not what anyone expected. Here's the first twist. There's a star called TOI 5205. It is a red dwarf, the small dim kind of star that litters the galaxy like embers scattered across a hearth. Red dwarfs are tiny. Most of them are about a third the size of our sun, sometimes less. They are cool. They're quiet. They're the kind of stars that almost nobody talks about at dinner parties. Around TOI 5205, scientists found a planet. They called it TOI 5205b. And when they measured it, they could not believe their own numbers. TOI 5205b is bigger than Jupiter. It is heavier than Jupiter. It is a proper gas giant, the kind of world that outclasses everything in our solar system except the sun itself. And it is orbiting a star smaller than it. Think about that for 1 second. Imagine a parent shorter than their child, a basketball player trying to guard someone taller than they are. The math does not work. By every model of how planets form around stars, this should be impossible. A small star does not have enough stuff in its disk of dust and gas to build a giant planet. The building blocks are not there. The recipe does not add up. You cannot bake a wedding cake with a teaspoon of flour. And yet, Webb looked at TOI 5205 and confirmed the system. Multiple teams, multiple telescopes, peer-reviewed papers. The planet is real, and it is exactly as wrong as everyone said it should not be. That alone would be enough to keep astronomers up at night. But here's the part they are not telling you. When Webb looked at TOI 5205b in infrared light, the same trick it uses to sniff other planets, it found an atmosphere that should not exist either. The planet is so close to its little red dwarf star that its day side, the side that always faces the star, should be fried, cooked, baked to a crisp. Most models predicted any atmosphere would have been stripped away long ago, boiled off into space, leaving behind a bare ball of rock and metal.
Webb saw an atmosphere, a thick one.
The temperature readings did not line up. The chemistry did not line up. There were molecules in the atmosphere that no model had predicted, and the heat was being moved around the planet in a way that nobody expected. The night side, the dark side, was warmer than it had any right to be. Something was carrying heat from day to night, fast and efficiently, and nobody could explain how.
Stop and sit with that for a second.
A planet that should never have formed, sitting closer to its star than Mercury sits to our sun, with an atmosphere that should have been stripped away. And that atmosphere is doing things the textbooks say are impossible.
And here is where the story takes the turn that everyone missed, because TOI 5205b is not alone.
A team using Webb looked at another system, an ancient super-Earth called TOI 561b, and found the same kind of surprise. Thick atmosphere on a planet that should have lost its air a billion years ago. Carbon chemistry in the upper layers that does not fit. Temperatures the old models cannot reproduce.
Another team pointed Webb at a planet called WASP 94AB and saw clouds, not water clouds, sand clouds. High above the surface, the wind was carrying grains of silicate, of rock dust, around the planet in slow, stormy rivers.
Another team pointed Webb at a Jupiter-sized planet around a millisecond pulsar, a tiny dead star that spins hundreds of times a second and blasts everything nearby with radiation, and found an atmosphere composed almost entirely of pure carbon. A world with air made of soot, something that should be chemically impossible on a planet that close to a pulsar. Everywhere Webb looks in this strange corner of the galaxy, it finds a planet breaking a rule. Not one rule, many rules, quietly, without permission. As if the universe decided to check our homework and decided we flunked.
And this is where the story goes from strange to personal, because here's the third twist, and this one is the biggest. There's another world that breaks every rule we have ever trusted, and this one is not orbiting a living star. It is orbiting a dead one. Its name is WD 1856b.
WD stands for white dwarf. A white dwarf is what is left of a star after it has finished burning. It is puffed up into a red giant. It has swallowed its inner planets. It has shed its outer layers into space. It has collapsed down into something small, dense, and dim. A stellar corpse the size of Earth, but half the mass of the sun, cooling slowly in the dark for billions of years. By every rule we wrote, any planet around a white dwarf should be gone, vaporized, eaten, thrown out into interstellar space. The journey from main sequence star to white dwarf is one of the most violent transitions in the universe, and anything in the way gets crushed, melted, or flung into the void.
And yet WD 1856b is there, a Jupiter-sized gas giant, somehow, quietly, orbiting a dead star about 80 light years from Earth.
When Webb looked at this system in 2026, the data revealed something even stranger. The planet should not be where it is either. To survive its star's death, it had to have moved. Either it was gravitationally kicked inward by another star long ago, into a tight, safe orbit, or it was pulled out of a wider orbit by a passing star. There is no clean explanation. But the planet is there, and it is the first Jupiter-sized world ever confirmed orbiting a white dwarf. And if a Jupiter-sized world can survive a star's death this close to the corpse afterwards, then the math of what happens to planets when their stars die has to be rewritten. Right now, today.
Stop and think about what that means.
Our sun will become a white dwarf one day. About 5 billion years from now, give or take. And when it does, the inner solar system will become a horror show for a few 100 million years. Mercury will be swallowed. Venus may be swallowed. Earth may be swallowed. Mars will be scorched, possibly stripped of its air.
But our outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, the ice giants, they will keep orbiting, maybe further out, maybe at different angles, but they will still be there.
The discovery of WD 1856b just told us that gas giants around white dwarfs are not rare accidents. They can survive.
That means our Jupiter, our Saturn, our grandchildren's grandchildren's distant descendants will still have giant planets overhead long after our sun has gone quiet. That is not a small thing. That is a piece of our future that just got rewritten. But that is not the end of the story either.
Because the deeper question, the one that should give you chills, is this. If the rules we wrote about how planets form and how they survive are this wrong, in this many places, this consistently, then the rules we wrote about where life can live are wrong too. For 30 years, our search for life beyond Earth has been built on the same book of assumptions. Gas giants have to form far from their stars. Small stars mostly have rocky planets. Habitable zones are at certain distances. Atmospheres on close-in planets get stripped. Dead stars kill their planets.
Webb is breaking every chapter of that book in real time, which means the places we have not been looking for life might be the very places we should be looking.
Planets that we threw out of our candidate lists because they looked too hot, too close to their stars, too weird, too small, too big. Planets around tiny red dwarfs we wrote off because red dwarfs flare too much to keep an atmosphere stable. Planets around dead stars we wrote off because the math said they could not survive.
We may have been looking in the wrong places this whole time, and Webb is now showing us where to look instead.
That is why this matters. Not just to astronomers, not just to people who love space, to anyone who has ever looked up at the night sky and quietly asked, are we alone in this? Because every time one of these rule-breaking planets shows up, the answer gets a little more interesting. And here is a piece of the story that almost never makes the news. Webb is not done. It is not done by a long way. Every year it stares at the sky. It finds new worlds. Some are quiet. Some are loud. Some glow in colors we cannot see. The data is still coming in. The catalogs are still filling up. The next impossible planet is, statistically, already in the pipeline. We just have not seen it yet. You are watching this story at the exact middle of it. Not the beginning, not the end. The middle drop of a roller coaster that started in 1995 and is still climbing. If this is the kind of story that makes you stop scrolling, subscribe right now. We are just getting started. Over the next year, Webb's archives are going to be opened up wider. The data is going to be reanalyzed by every team on Earth with new tools, and the count of these forbidden worlds is going to at least double. Probably more. You do not want to miss what comes out next. Now I want to do something with this ending. I want to zoom out, because I think the small picture is not the real picture here.
The real picture is this. We made a rule book. We wrote it in the 1990s. We wrote it based on 9 planets in one quiet little system on the edge of an ordinary spiral arm in an ordinary galaxy. 9 worlds. 8 if you do not count Pluto. 8 data points. We built a science of planets on 8 data points and a lot of imagination.
And the universe has been politely telling us, since the moment we started looking outside our own neighborhood, that the rulebook is too small.
Every new discovery is a fingerprint on the edge of that book. Webb is the most sensitive thumbprint reader we have ever built. And the prints it is reading do not match.
That is not a failure. That is what science is supposed to look like. A confident guess, a careful measurement, a moment of embarrassment, and then a slightly better guess. We are in the embarrassment part right now, which means we are closer to the truth than we were yesterday.
And the truth is bigger than we thought.
There are more kinds of planets than we have words for, more kinds of stars than we have categories for, more kinds of atmospheres, more kinds of orbits, more kinds of survivors, more kinds of worlds where, just maybe, the conditions for life could line up in a way we never predicted.
That is not a scary thought. That is a hopeful one.
Every time a planet breaks a rule we trusted, the chance that somewhere out there, on a quiet world we have not looked at yet, something is breathing gets a little higher.
And if you needed one more reason to care about this story, here it is.
The last big rewrite of the planetary rulebook happened about 500 years ago. That was when Copernicus moved the Earth out of the center of the universe. People were upset. Churches pushed back. Common sense pushed back. But the rewrite happened anyway. And once it did, the door opened to Newton, to Einstein, to rockets, to satellites, to Webb.
Every time we admit we got the old picture wrong, the next picture gets bigger and the door opens a little wider.
We are in one of those moments right now.
And you are watching it happen.
If this story made you look up at the sky a little differently tonight, leave me a comment. Tell me what you thought was true about planets that you're not sure about anymore. I read every single one, and the best comments become seeds for the next video we make together. If you know someone who needs to hear that we just had to rewrite the rulebook on planets in our own galaxy, share this with them, send it to them. The more people who understand how much we still have to learn, the harder it is to stop looking. Thank you so much for staying until the end. We are in the middle of the discovery. The next impossible planet is already out there. We just have to point Webb at the right patch of sky.
I will see you in the next one.